Hello. Um, Overbound here. Uh, so I'm going to do a quick stream today to go over my workflow for making sprites in Illustrator for my game No More Robots. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm having a friend do some of this work for me, and I want to help him understand the workflow I've been using. In addition to that, I thought it might be useful to other people, so I thought I would just go ahead and do make it a live stream, yeah, mostly because it's like the quickest way. And if anybody wants to glean information from it, they can. Um, that's about it. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So as you can see, I've created quite a few different sprites in Illustrator for my character here, Relic, the last robot. And what I think I will do, okay. What I think we'll do, I don't really want to do like a bunch, but what I want to do is just show the workflow. So I think what I'll do is I'll take this sprite here. This is his ducking animation. You can kind of see Neil's a little bit, and then he ducks all the way down, and he holds the sword straight up. Um, uh, uh, anyway, the so what I want to do is I want to animate his cape because I like his cape to always be flowing, at least a little bit, and it'll look better than having a static, a static cape. Usually what I do when I want to make an animation is I'll start off and I'll figure out how many frames I want it. Um, this is a pretty basic uh, loop, just a tiny bit of movement. I'm thinking either three or four. Okay, here I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is another kind of similar animation where it's just a little bit of the cape flowing and he's just standing there. These animations, by the way, they're all beta. That I have to go through them all and clean them up. These are like the rough drafts. They're the ones I use to test in the game, and then you have to go back and clean them up. But in case any of them don't work out, that I don't do that cleanup work until I'm sure. Where is the base? This is the base. Okay, here's his flowing base sprite. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. See, so these frames, he just kind of bumps a little bit, just standing there, and an idle animation, and it's 4 frames. So I was thinking 3 frames for this, but since this is 4 frames, maybe I should stick with 4. And that's actually better for the tutorial, probably. I should probably double check that I'm streaming and everything too, because uh, uh, what I want to check that this is working. So I'm just going to double check my channel. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, it says I'm live. Okay. Yeah. I very much doubt anyone will actually show up, but I just want to. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, there are 2 people watching. Oh, okay. I'm glad you played Time Twist on your laptop. That's cool. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name. It looks like, is that an I? So it would be Iwinosa? Iwinosa? I said I wasn't going to try to pronounce it, and then I tried to. Iwinosa, I think, is, or Iwinosa, or, but yeah, it's cool you played the game. Okay, so I'm going to do a 4-frame animation, and the way to start, the way I always start, dang it, is line up my my sprites here. To get, like, this isn't meant to be a real basic Illustrator tutorial, but just to help understanding, I'm using mostly the select tool, the direct select tool, and the these 2 arrows up here. I'm switching between them using keyboard shortcuts, but I'm using those 2 tools. The main tool lets you grab objects, which is like, or a group of objects if it's grouped. And then the individual selection tool allows you to grab individual vectors and move your art around like this, or move his eye around like so. Okay, so those are the two tools I am using so far. I'm going to go ahead and make one more frame here. I also have smart grids enabled here in smart guides, I guess it's called. And that does a lot of the line snapping you can kind of see. Like if you see it snapping. So if I grab by a corner here with my direct select tool after the object is selected, I can grab the whole object based on this corner and then I can snap it into place. So that's good. All right. So now I've got my 4 frames and we've got this original frame, which is, and so the next frame you want to do is, I usually work every other frame. So I do this frame, then I do this frame, then I work out what the in-between should be. So I'll pull this guy up just so I have him. Well, actually, I don't need to do that. I need to, so what I'll want to do is I'll want to move this to the top of my layer. Bring to front, and I'll bring this one to front as well so that they're at the top of my layer over here in my layers menu. You can see when I select these two, this little blue dot over here changes, and that's because I have them selected, and they're at the top of the layer. It's the only layer I have. Okay, so we've got these two, and we're going to actually layer them on one on top of the other. So this one's going to go on top here. I think that's in place. I think it's in place, but I don't know. So how can I tell for sure? Well, I can check the lines. And how do you check the lines? You go into outline mode. How do you go into outline mode? Well, you hit Control Y. Boom, you see the outlines. And you can see there's only one triangle there. So I must have snapped directly to the image behind. And you can even see when I turn off the layer, that you can see the line get kind of thinner. I don't know how much you can see that in the video, but it's turning off and off, not the layer, but the individual object grouping. Okay, so now I'm going to hit Control Y again to go back into object mode. And since I only want to work with one of these objects, like one of them is the keyframe I've made already, and then this is going to be the second keyframe. So I'm going to lock the object, this back object here, so that I can use it as a reference. And now for my waving of the cape, I basically want to reverse this movement. I can't speak Spanish if that's what that is, so sorry, but you can try in English or try a translator if you want me to answer your question. So what I'm going to try to do though is I'm going to try to reverse this this curve, basically. So to do that, I'm using the direct select tool, and I know this tutorial is pretty basic, Willie, but yeah, bear with me here. And I'm going to move it over, and then I'll pull this over a little bit so that not quite where I want it. I don't want to move his scarf at all, because frankly I'm just going to leave it static for the moment until I finalize the animation, which I won't be doing on this stream. As I said, I tend to work in rough drafts, because otherwise you end up doing animation and you're like, oh, this attack doesn't work at all, and I just spent a long time working on this animation. Better to do a rough draft, get it in game, and then go back and polish it. So we've moved it back and we've moved it in, and then so this would have to move back right, because it would have, I don't like this curve here, this little extra vector. So I'm going to move it back too though. And then I'll change the curve up here so that it is curving the other way, Shrink this up a little bit because I'm not crazy about this thing. Actually, this is probably the one I need to pull. Not crazy about how this curve is looking yet, but let's go ahead and check it against the back. So I'll just turn off, turn on, turn off, turn on. Get a sense of the animation. Okay. And what I'm gleaning from this is I don't like this point, and sometimes Illustrator's a little weird with the endpoints. Okay, there, I got it back. You got to move the curve just right to get your point back, I guess. I'm actually going to bring this in a little, pull this back a little, I think. That's maybe a little closer to what I want. So we'll flip again. Actually, I'm going to leave that on. Now I'm going to go into, I hit Control Y again to go into outline mode so that I can see both objects at once. And I'm just going to move it closer. I'll pull this out. Go back, Control Y again. Look at the flip of it. It's a little better. Getting there, getting there. Okay, so on this one, the original keyframe, the hump is up and it's down there, so that should be reversed probably too. And that will... Can I just get rid of this? Okay, I better explain this. Willie probably knows, but I'll go ahead and explain it. I'm using the pen tool now. The pen tool is how I made all these lines in the first place. You can click and make lines. It's probably the details of it are more than I'm going to get into in this video, but basically you can make lines and you can make a couple of different kinds. You can make straight ones or curves, and it really allows you to make any kind of curve you would need for drawing. But in this case, I've got one vector here, one point that I don't want. So if I hover over it with the pen tool, it switches to a minus and I can click and get rid of it. Good riddance. So let's look at this again. Okay, so here we're coming down, pull, and then here it's going up a little bit. So now let's check it again. I think this is moved over a little bit too far, so I'm going to use the arrow keys and just click it so I can move it just horizontally. You can also start moving in a direction, I think using shift, right? Yeah, if you use shift and you start moving mostly in one direction, it'll kind of lock to that direction as well. I mean, that's really all it needs to do, you know. It wasn't, I'm not doing rocket science here, but I do see one problem, and that is the top here. See how here, the way this character is designed, the top and the bottom there should kind of be... Oh, you are here, Willie. Thanks, that's great. Okay, so the top and the bottom should be like on the same... so that's actually an error with... They should line up with this, so that's kind of actually an error with this. So I think I need to exaggerate this curve a little less. Maybe like so. Okay. And actually, looking at that, that's wrong too. That shouldn't be outside of his scarf. What am I doing here? It's a good thing these are rough drafts, huh? That's another thing to keep in mind. Anything you make is just consider a rough draft. I'm going to update them, but it'll still be the same animation in Spirit. I'm just going to clean them up a little bit, that's all. Yeah. I guess I need to make sure this is in the right place on the back one too. So I'm just double clicking with the black arrow tool to dip into all my layers here. You can kind of see it isolating them. This is isolating on layers is a nice way to work, because then you can like select groups of dots without selecting all of them. And working in outline mode, going to outline mode gives you even more freedom, because one frustration is like if I want to select a group, like say I wanted to select these two, and I want to draw a box around them and select them both at the same time, these two dots. Well, in outline mode, I'm going to end up just dragging, or sorry, in normal view mode, I'm just going to end up dragging this highlight here, or this thing. Whoops, I backed out. But if I go into outline mode, then I can it doesn't mind the fills, so I don't remember which 2 points I was selecting, but I can do that or this. And so this is very helpful when you're trying to like draw out shapes. Yeah, I use that a lot. Okay. What was I doing? I was fixing his scarf. And so I was digging in here. I was trying to grab this highlight so I could copy the highlight. Okay, this is another trick that's probably a pretty important one. Okay, so I'm going to copy this highlight. I'm hitting Control C. And then when I paste it, I want to paste it in the same spot because if I wanted to match this one up, I could drag it there manually. Be kind of a pain in the butt. It'd probably take forever to get perfect, right? If I could do it at all. But instead, I'm just going to come in here. I made that copy, right? So I can go ahead and delete this one. And since these two pictures I lined up exactly the same, if I hit Control-Shift-V, it'll paste in exactly the same spot. And since I'm in a group, it'll become part of that group. So then it's exactly where I need it. Boom. Now that fix is done. Oh, what is that? There's a little... These aren't quite lined up right. What is it? Where did I go wrong? Oh my gosh, look at this. I didn't zoom in far enough. Look at this. I've been working with this the whole flipping time. It's off. Okay. So now I got to zoom out. My mouse wheel's kind of broken, but I'm hitting Alt and the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. So I got my top one here. I'm going to try to reposition it, and this time I ain't going to take any chances. I ain't going to trust my eyes. Well, I am going to trust my eyes, but closer in. Zoomed in. I'm going to see, okay, it snapped into place. Did I have the whole object? Did the whole object snap into place? Yes, it did. There's only one dude there. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom way, way in. I'm going to check all these corners to make sure everything's good and lined up. Because if it ain't lined up, then I'm screwed. And I probably have to redo that little bit of whatever, that scarf again. Dang it. Curses. It's ruining my day. Not really, but... Yeah, you can see now just it shifts instead of the whole thing. But that's great, right? We're almost there. I don't care which one I get. I can't even remember which layer I'm on. It's close enough to the same exact spot. I really could care less. In fact, I think I took the one that looked better. So that's good. Dang it. Double click, double click, double click. Sometimes I get a little overzealous with the groups, and then I'm double clicking, double clicking, double clicking. Okay. So that should be fixed now. Yep, no. Oh, his arms are going up. What? Well, you know, that's actually okay, though, because he wouldn't be stiff and still. His arms would be moving a little bit. Nobody can stand perfectly still. And in fact, I may go back and add a little bit more jitter to the arms and the legs and probably the head, too. But I don't think I'll get into all that right now because I have quite a lot to do today. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so I just need to, okay, I'll lock this layer again because I shouldn't have been editing that one, but we found an error with it, so I had to. So I hit A again. I want to pull this back. Now you can see the tab. I think that's all it needed. Yeah, that's just applies a little bit of motion, right? I'm still not crazy about this. I'm pulling this forward. I'm doing it. Don't try to stop me. Okay. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so now I just need to come up with the in-betweens for the two. And realistically, do I really need 4, or can I? I think 3 is gonna look just as good. You don't look at this animation as much either. I can always... Okay, I'm gonna actually delete these two after I spend all that time putting them in there. Okay, so we've got these two sprites, and now I need an in-between for them. So, and it'll loop in the threes. So an in between for these two would work here as well, right? Obviously. If you had more sprites, you'd have to do more in between. As I said, if you look at these, like, let's look up here at the running animation or the jog animation for a second. I would have done, where's the jogs? I guess, is it that whole thing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So I would have done, I think I started with this one. And then I would have done this one, right? Well, no, I would have done this one. And then I would have done the one furthest away. So I would have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, yeah. Which would have been the same. So I wouldn't have, okay, sorry, I'm remembering my process as I'm explaining this. Since the run, normally I would do, you'd start with one animation and then you go halfway down, you do the other, because then you get the most exaggerated steps. And that's good, but a walk is kind of a unique instance because the two frames furthest apart are actually going to be kind of similar. They're just going to be the opposite legs, right, in the opposite positions. So in this case, what I would have done is I would have done every fourth one, right? Like, or is it third? It would have been third. So I would have done here. Then I would have done here, right? And I would just keep skipping. So it's not that great of an explanation, but hopefully I get my point across. Anyway. Okay. So we've got that. We just need this in between. Now that's the one catch with the in between because a little bit of animation 101 for you guys. I want to find a good sprite for this to explain this. You know what? We'll just pull up the engine and it's going to be kind of fast, but we'll just pull up the engine and look at the sprites in the engine here. So which one do we want to look at? Dang it. Don't create a new one. We'll do the neutral attack. So if I play this, it's so fast. I guess I can scrub it manually. So if I play this, you see the frame starts there, comes here, and then it skips. It has a big skip. And it comes to the end. So here, what I'm trying to get across, and I don't have a script or anything, so I'm winging it here. But what I'm trying to get across is this big skip, the mind will fill in. And so when you're doing animation, you want to settle on your keyframes. This is a keyframe here, and then maybe this one was the keyframe. I don't remember. But this was the main keyframe here because this is how I wanted the attack to end. So I made all the other animations leading up to this one kind of similar because I want to emphasize this frame. And so the mind, it doesn't matter that there's this massive skip here and you never see the actual arms rotating around his torso to roll his arm around. The mind will fill that in. And so what you want to focus on is you want to decide on keyframes and you want to use your other frames, your in between, to emphasize those keyframe poses. That's what I do anyway. Okay. So, back to what we were doing. Let's quick finish this up, and I think we will call it a stream. All right. Well, there is a little bit more. There's the Photoshop aspect, which I'm not sure that's a great workflow, but it works for me, so, I'll show it. Okay, so we've got these 3 frames here. We're going to line them up much like we did before. This one should be in the back. Good. This one's in the front. Or this one should be in the middle, so I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to drag it down. Okay. And then that one's on top. And you can also change their arrangement here, too. It's the same thing as moving them in the layer. Okay. All your windows, if you're looking for some of these windows I'm working with, the layers windows here, all the panels are in the window menu here. Okay. Dang it. Stop clicking there. All right, so I'm going to line these up again like we did before. I'll select it with the black arrow tool. Then I'll take the white arrow tool and I'll grab a corner because the whole thing's selected, and then I'll try to snap it in place. I think it's snapped in place. We'll hit Control Y. Won't be a bonehead about it this time. Yep, that's zoomed in as far as it can go. We're solid. We're solid. And if I flick off this, we're in the right place. Okay. Mission accomplished or something. All clear. We'll do the same with this one. I'm going to just go into this mode first. Control Y again to get into that mode. Control Y. I don't know what it is on a Mac. I imagine Command Y. Okay, so we've got our two frames here. So we're going to lock this back frame. We're going to lock the front frame because the only frame we really care about is this middle frame. And then I can go into outline mode. And I can try to come up with a middle ground between the two. And like I said, normally you want to emphasize your keyframes like I was showing here. In this case, it's a 3-frame animation, so it's kind of like both those could be keyframes, and so I'll set kind of a middle ground between them, pretty close to in the center. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quick look at these and decide which one I like better, and then I'll emphasize that one most. Okay, so you've got this one down. Where's I think I like this one most. So we're going to emphasize this one with this next frame we're making. Okay. Still need to have the top one on. Okay, so everything's locked, so I can only select this middle object. And we want to keep this kind of close, like we said. So we're just going to move it down a little bit. It'll start getting closer, and we'll just move it out just a little bit here. And we'll pull this down just a little bit and turn this thing a little bit, make it a little bit flatter. Move it down just a little bit, pull this back. Then this needs to come over a little bit, right? And this would have to fold back this way a little bit, but not too much. Again, we're trying to emphasize this frame over the other one. And then this, okay, I guess it would just kind of pull back, and it looks like I just moved. I should move that in an arc. Okay, so another thing with animation, anytime you can, you should move things in an arc. So rather than doing a flat movement there, that's pretty not cool. I should have done an arc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this front frame and unlock it, and I'm going to move it up here a little bit. So that way it has motion in two directions, which is a nicer animation anyway, right? And then I'm going to move this here. So if you kind of look, it's not a straight line between three of them. It's a bit of an arc, and that'll look nicer. Arcs always look better in almost any kind of art, in my opinion. I feel like I'm missing something. Let's go back into here and look at our new frame. Okay, so then this back got pulled out a little, so we'll put that back there. Let's look at our bottom frame again. Okay, so you can see a bit of the underside there. You can see a bit of the the back of the cape there, or the backside, yeah. And then in this one you can't see any. So in the middle here, okay, first of all I gotta fix this because this is really an ugly curve here. Okay, sometimes you hit Control H, and what that'll do is it'll turn off all your lines by default until you hit Control H again. See, I'm trying to show the difference. Okay, here's Control H, off, I think, and then here it is on, so I can see my lines. So if you end up like it's acting weird and you're not seeing it, try Control H. There's an option for it in the menu. Control H, what does it do? Hide edges. See, Control H in the view menu. Okay, so I think what I need to do is pull this back a little bit and then maybe pull this one over. See, I'm not sure I actually should have put this point here, but it's not a big deal, so I'm not gonna. And then I'll bring this down a little bit so we just see a tiny bit of the other side of the cape. Now let's look at the difference there. Okay, so one thing, whoops. I need to make sure that the cape is touching the back of the scarf. I wonder if I didn't do enough. I think I need to make the motion a little bit. Okay, it's here. Same problem. No arc. Well, a little bit of an arc. But this middle frame, yeah. I think I'll pull this down and make the top a little flatter, and maybe that'll make it look a little bit more different, but also closer to this one. I think that's good enough. As I said, these are just prototype animations, and I have quite a lot to get done today. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and come in Illustrator or Photoshop here, and I think this file is actually, this is something I was working on the other day, but I think this file is actually the size I need and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and come in here and I'm gonna copy each one of these into Photoshop. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, probably using Flash or something like that. This works for me. I like Illustrator. Oh, I'm not getting any I guess there's a little anti-aliasing. I'm zoomed in. That's why. Okay. Delete this bottom one. No need for it. So I've got 3 layers, right? With the same frames. Okay. Then I'm going to close this panel here just for argument's sake. Then I come up here and I go to timeline. And I've got 3 frames, and there's this button here. It says create frame animation. And I click it, and I got 1 frame. And now I go over here, this little menu, and I hit make frames from layers. And then I've got 3 frames. And if I select all 3, I can set the amount of time that should delay. None of these amounts are quite what I want. I want about I don't even know how to say it, but I want 0.05 seconds. Now hundreds, I think. And so there, I do that, and I hit OK. Now usually these frames are going to play for that long of a second, and I'll hit play. And I can see what my animation looks like. I can zoom out a little bit. That's not bad. Fine. Works. Works. Enough to test with, that's for sure. Enough to build off of and iterate. Try it at 0.1 second. Try it at 0.2 seconds. Yeah, it's a little slow, but yeah. Still gotta, have the scarf move around and stuff. I'm not in the, I don't really animate the scarf too much yet, because it's like, if I end up redoing the whole animation, what's the point of worrying about the scarf animation now? I just try to get the big pieces in place. And then once I get near, like I get the whole game together, I'll be like, okay, now I'm going to go over these animations with a fine-tooth comb. All right, so one last thing to do. We're going to export this. We're going to export it as, say, for Web Legacy. We're going to set it to a GIF. And we'll set the looping to forever. That's another thing. There's a little option down here for looping. I never mentioned that, but there's 1 loop and 2 loops, and then you can loop forever as well. So there's a little menu down there. Looks the same as this one. Okay. And you can see the animation play here as well. So now I'm going to save this. I'll put it on the desktop. Maybe I'll show off a couple of my other animations real quick, just for kicks. And then we'll call it a stream. So we just saved this one. Cool. Got a couple older ones. This is his heavy swing. It's heavy swing down in the downward direction when you're in the air. Do you have any other to show off? I think this is just, yeah, I think this is the same swing, but it just doesn't have I think it might be tweaked a little bit. This is going around and around. I released this on Twitter already. But I'm not really going to show much of the game. Obviously, I have the engine right here, but I'm really trying to keep it under wraps for the most part. Yeah. I guess that's the stream. I hope this was helpful for some. Sounds like, Willie, you got something out of it, so that's awesome. I guess I will check real quick just to see if there were any questions. Nope, nobody's saying anything. Cool. I will call that a stream then, guys. There's 4 of you here, I guess, so thanks for watching. I'm still working on No More